Beware, you're in for a scare. From the pages of R.L. Stein's best-selling books comes a brand new series of Goosebumps videos. Videos that will creep you out, freak you out, or simply make you laugh your head off.
Hello, folks. It's time for another edition. Goosebumps fans is another edition of differences between book and episode. Second round on this one. Well, technically, I never actually got to this one. So, hey, I think I didn't. Yeah, so hey, let's get started, shall we? So, special thanks again to Paparina. So what we have here is, well, number one is crazy is that he knocks the cover art. I'm like, oh crap. Don't tell Tim Jacobus about this. Don't do it. Oh my gosh. Or Tim actually finds out that he's like, dude, worms aren't purple. It's like, oh my gosh, man. Well, it's huge. I'm not touching this. I thought it was an interesting one. Will admit that this episode, because the episode, it actually made me not want to shower in when I actually was in the other house, the apartment. It actually made me not want to use the shower that I, in quotation, supposed to use. Because my mom has her shower and everything, and then I have my own. Sadly, the toilet, it didn't actually work. So I can only brush my teeth in there and actually take a shower and go in the tub. But the silky part is that one is like one that I'm like, oh hell no. It's like, oh hell no, I'm not doing that. Because of the Goosebumps freaking episode. Because that really actually did some, I won't say it did some psyche damage, but I'm pretty sure, yeah, you did some bad stuff right there, man, with that. You'll see in the episode, if you do watch it, you'll see like the pulsating worms, and it's like, oh frick, I'm not gonna do that, because every single time I look at that tub, I was like, sometimes I actually think, oh frick, the worms are gonna be in that tub, man. It's like, yeah, it's like I'm alone, and then nothing will save me from them. So it's like, that's the reason why I never used that tub and never that shower. I only used it once. I was able to face that issue once, but then I wasn't able to do it ever again. So whatever. Anyways, let's get started. So we got Todd, and Todd actually is an awful individual, but he loves worms. Let me say that in the episode version, he actually thinks scientifically, but the sucky part is that he's willing to freaking torture the worms. I mean, let's see if they live in in a heated environment, a cold environment, cut them in half. Well, the worms, they don't feel pain. It's like, what the frick? The invincibility of worms. Frick you, cockroaches. It's like, yeah, frick you, cockroaches. And this project, notice that in the book they were kind of flashy. That's one thing that Paparina shows, the fact that they're more fashion like instead of actually being more scientific. So it looks like number one, the writers did in the book, in the episode, is they made it more scientific. And that deserves applause. So it's kind of interesting how, yeah, they actually did do that, and they made sure that it's more scientific. So he's actually dissected a freaking worm for science. And the girls, well, let me talk about the people. So we have Regina, his sister, Beth, her friend, and Danny, Todd's friend. So they were digging up worms, and this is the book version. They digged up worms, and they were digging them up near the school, I think. It's like, yeah, it was near the school, the baseball field. While in the episode, it was actually mentioned that they actually do it at the lake. So it's kind of funny where they're like, so they couldn't actually get a baseball field, I guess. But on the other hand, it works to their advantage that they actually picked the lake instead of the baseball field. Given technically in the trilogy, which is how many years later, like at least 2 years, they found a baseball field. So it's like, it's not like they couldn't find one. I just think that maybe they can't do the freaking damage that they could, while in this episode, they actually used it to their advantage and actually made the lake something very, very creepy, which that deserves a thumbs up. It's like the writers are 2 for 2 on this. So they were digging them up, and in the book, they actually had like some tremor, some earthquake they felt, but apparently it's only near where they are, not near the school, so they never actually felt the earthquake. So Regina and Beth, they were actually making a bird paper mache, while in the episode they said, "Oh, we are actually doing the life cycle of a robin." So it's like, wow, 3 for 3 for the writers. Holy frig. The writers are kicking R.L. Stein's KSS people. They're doing a great job. I mean, so far it's like, wow. You see, this is why I'm like, when it comes to book to episode stuff, they're able to correct what happened in the book with the episode. And this is one of the key examples of, look at that. Look at their writing, man. And lots of people knock the TV show and saying, "Oh, they're crappy writers too. Yeah, Arl Stein sucks. These writers on the TV show suck. The world sucks." It's like, dude, really? Come on. Stop being cynical. These writers are actually doing a great job. I mean, there's a few other episodes that they did a great job with. This is one key example of them actually correcting what the book did. Let's continue on, shall we? So the worm pranks in the book, where it's like soup. He's like, he bet Beth that there's a worm in her soup, and eventually he put a worm in her soup. So it's like, yeah, that happened, but that didn't happen in an episode. They freaked that. Worms are purple, and then we have Patrick, which, yeah, it looks like in the episode they were like, yeah, we don't need Patrick. We don't need Patrick. So Patrick's been cut from the episode. But in the book, Patrick is the new kid who's rich, and he's working on a worm project as well. Yeah, and apparently his parents actually are like, "Oh, he needs more interaction," even though I'm like, pretty sure a private school is okay too. If you're thinking about homeschooling him and that's what he was beforehand, well, there is private schools, man. You have the money. Heck, you could have founded a private school if you wanted to. Anyways, later on, we get another earthquake because they were nearby the ballpark, I think, getting some worms, and Todd actually plans to sabotage the Robin. While in the episode, I think, let's see, in the episode at this point, we have the worms are watching. Yeah, the worms are actually watching him. We get to see at least 3 of the worms peeking their heads out in the dirt, looking at him. Holy freak. And then we get to school, and of course, well, in the book, well, Paparina's like, there was no worms in the spaghetti, and I'm like, I remember that in the episode there was, and yes, there was worms in spaghetti. It was Danny's. We have no idea if this is Regina's prank on Danny or the worms did it by themselves. It's like, it doesn't make sense if the worms did it by themselves. It's like, if the worms did it by themselves and actually went into the spaghetti, why? I mean, yeah, given they might be stupid and idiotic, where they're like, we don't know that spaghetti actually he'll eat it. We thought we're able to actually just, and it's like, the worms kind of should be smarter than that. So I'm pretty sure it might have been Regina who did it, and we never actually got confirmation on whether or not she actually did this. So that's one thing in the episode that actually is one negative point, given it does make an interesting question of, then who did it? Was Rowan's idiots, or did Regina do it? We don't know. And because of the prank, they traded. Danny traded with Todd. So Todd actually had the spaghetti, and he thought it was a prank on Todd. And because of that, they aren't friends anymore. So Todd is now alone. Yeah, good job, Regina. And the interesting part is that he has worm decor in his room. His room actually is filled with lots of worm stuff, and heck, in the beginning of the episode you see that he actually has a magazine called Worm Monthly or something. So wow. Anyways, let's see. So in the book, we have Regina tells Todd his address, Patrick's address, because he's like, I gotta sabotage his project because he's using the same project I am. And they go on their bikes. Of course, you can see why Yeah, in the episodes, they can't do bike riding for some reason. But they got rid of Patrick, period, so they don't really need this part. Apparently, she sent him to a abandoned house. There's a scary dog there. Barking ghost? Oh damn, I can't reach on that one. Abandoned house. Welcome to Dead House, apparently. Maybe that's what's going on. Oh damn, I can't reach for that either. It's like, yeah, sadly for the book, I can't really do any connections. That actually is very, very cool. And then they walked in. They had no choice because a scary dog scared them. They walked in. They found a rotting corpse in there, and they both ran home. Well, at least Todd returned home, and he actually overheard that Regina planned that. And apparently, it was a Halloween party house that happened weeks ago. And looks like that decoration was left there. I do have to admit, with Paparina, how the frick do you know that there is a Halloween party? Was it adults or most likely teenagers? How the frick do you know about it? I guess technically there is word of mouth around town. You know, I guess that works. But on the other hand, it is kind of weird though. It's like, were you there? Did you get drunk? Did you get crunk? It's like, no, no, I bet nah. So, anyways, Todd overheard, so he actually decides to sabotage the bird. And then in the book, they go straight into the science fair. Meanwhile, let me just tell you this, is in the episode, there's no dad. Yeah, so here we go again, where the fact of the dad is missing. And heck, even in the book, I think the parents really actually had nothing to do with anything. The parents only was mentioned the fact of they're like, oh, we're enough. This is enough of this damn worm stuff. Get rid of the worms, okay? Frick you, kid. But the crazy part is that even though the good news is that this is one of the ones, this is the first one ever I'm able to say, even if they don't have the dad, the mom actually got some developing parts in this freaking episode. Because the mom, it turns out, because the mom actually got to be a mom, and she's actually a lawyer. Holy frick. And she actually gets Todd to fix the bird because, unlike in the freaking science fair, the science fair in the book, it happens. Let's see. So science fair, the parents are in their bleachers, they're cheering for them. No sciencey stuff. It's like an art show. Todd decides to actually have a dollhouse display, and Patrick actually has a skyscraper filled with worms with an elevator and crap. Then you have the judges, and then the birds. The paper-shaped bird has a string to it. They pulled it. Worms came out. Everyone was grossed out by it. The judges were offended. The freaking science fair was on hold while the janitor cleaned up. Yes, Yanni the janitor showed up. I hate you, Dexter. Anyways, funny enough that this actually happened at home in the episode, and this happened early on. This happened even before they showed that, oh, at school. So yeah, Regina actually pulled open the thing in at school at home, and the worms came out. It's like, yeah, you see this, look at that. And it makes sense that in the episode, it's like, yeah, well, you sabotaged her freaking project. You should fix her project now because you're the one who did it. Even though it's kind of weird how it's like, let's continue on with, I guess, the book. So the judges actually, after all of this, judges like Patrick's display, but the winner was actually Dennis with his planetary balloons. So Regina shoved Todd, and he actually got shoved all the way to Patrick's display, which is a spray got wrecked, and also destroyed a girl's display as well. And she kept on saying liquids and gases, liquids and gases. So eventually we started with the Todd versus Regina and Beth, and Todd actually cuts a worm in half. The girls kept on saying that, the worms actually know what you're doing and they're watching you, which is kind of funny where it's like, huh. So that's what happened, is that the writers in the episode most likely knew what exactly happens in the book, which is like, you see, This is how you do things. This is really how you do things. You hear me, Rob Litterman? You hear me, Avi? I forgot your name, who made the second movie, who directed it. You see, guys, this is what you needed to do: is read the damn books, then make something of it. It's like, yeah, you see, this is how that works out. And what they actually did was, like I said, he has to fix the bird. And, well, the mom, instead of flat out saying, hey, get rid of the damn worms, she's more like, maybe you should consider another hobby than having just worms. So let's see. Eventually, we get worms in his bed, and they came from the basement. And I was kind of at first going to say, oh, here's your freaking plot hole here. Even though the spaghetti with the worms in it, that one actually does have plot holes because again, it's kind of the interesting concept of we don't know if the worms it, which completely is stupid because the worms were getting eaten. What the fuck? Versus you also have, you also have, it might have been, um, Regina, which we have no idea if Regina actually did it, which we don't know. We don't freaking know. So we still have to this day, don't know. Anyways, let's continue on. Besides trailing backwards, the worms actually came from the basement and crawled up all the way to his room and into his bed. Regina was actually at the sleepover. All right, let's try to catch up with the book now. So let's see the judges. Regina shows another girl liquids and acids, and then cuts in half. Girl say, "Okay, here we go." So the worms are everywhere. Yeah. So he finally in the book we started to get worms in his bed all over the place. Regina actually denies that she did it. And well, we have just Patrick, and he's like, why in the world would Patrick actually go to your, how the frick would he goes to your house? That doesn't make sense. It's like, dude, that doesn't make sense at all, that Patrick is your next person. So it turns out that Patrick, actually, his revenge is to make a comic book called Todd the Worm. And then we have worms in weird places. Yet again, worms are everywhere, weird places. And the parents actually want them gone. And then we get the freaking confession, or we get a reveal that it was Regina all along who planted all those worms, even when she was on a sleepover when he found those in his bed. Which in the episode, same exact thing happened, but they have a good reason for it because it was the worms themselves. The worms actually did most of the work except for the spaghetti, which is unknown. Again, it's like I have no idea if Regina actually is purely innocent or purely guilty, which I guess this is my other video that's going to happen, I guess, which is going to be a freaking rehash of this crap. Okay, anyways, so Todd and Danny actually gonna dig for more worms, just like in the episode where he's like, yeah, I need more worms to get back at her because he thinks that it's her doing all of this, which is episode wise, it's actually the worms doing all this mostly. While in the book, it was her in the first place. So in the book, it turns out that they were digging in the ballpark and then the big worm showed up. He just erupted. Oh, what the frick? And he tries to kill. And then all of a sudden the girls walk out of the school. It sees the bird paper mache. It freaking got scared off and ran a frick away. So Todd actually swears himself off of worms. He picks butterflies. And this is where apparently might have read the last bit of the book, I guess, just to understand if maybe in the episode did it actually happen that way. And of course my imagination was able to freaking make it in Goosebumps form, so I kind of had the back and forth of where I'm like, am I sure it ended that way with the fish, or was it actually a butterfly? Because imagination wise, I think they could have done the butterfly. The only messed up part would be it would be in CGI, and they can't afford CGI. They can afford some CGI, but not so much. So it's like, oh, that sucks. And CGI in the 90s was just a cutting edge technology, not what it is now, where it's like you can do crappy technology of CGI and it could actually be cheaper. But since they have Sony on their back for right now, they could actually benefit from doing a new season, new series. Or anyway, so yeah, it turns out the big butterfly comes and pins him on the wall, most likely maybe killing him. We're not very sure. It's like, yeah, I'm not sure on that one. So maybe he's not dead. I'm not sure. I guess that's another one to actually add in there. Another thing to talk about. Meanwhile, what we have in the episode is the sleepover was happening. It turns out the mom came in there and said, "It's 2 o'clock in the fucking morning, clean that up, go to bed. I have a partners meeting tomorrow," which is like, wow, they're developing the mom more than what happened in the book. Crazy enough. So then we have the brother with sister and friend confrontation that happened too. Worms actually are watching Todd, kind of noticing him at the lake. So the worms actually is noticing him in the basement when he actually is going to go to the lake. So at the lake, it was actually kind of rainy, and then all of a sudden he falls in a big asshole. Wow, that didn't come out right. Okay, that I wasn't trying to say a cuss word. I'm actually meaning he fell into a big hole. It's kind of like what happened in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the first movie ever, when you had the dumb, stupid foot ninjas just with an axe kept on hitting the floor, and then all of a sudden they fall down. That's exactly what happened. That all of a sudden, oh my gosh, that's what happened. So he fell down into a big hole, and it turns out there's tunnel. It's a tunnel, man. It's a tunnel. And while Todd walks, there's a few worms who actually are spying at him. Holy frick. And then you see a wall over there, and in worms, which I think they're not dead. I thought it actually was tunneled, but apparently no, it's worms right there just posing. It says the following: will Todd, we will make you squirm. Yep, and then all of a sudden in what was it, Galaga? um the freaking movie that Jack Black actually did um a reboot of, that one with the little people, and he actually fell down and they pinned him and crap. Yes, that happened to freaking Todd too. They had his feet still. He did fall to the ground, and then he all of a sudden, yeah, he ran, and then, oh my gosh, big ass freaking worm. Todd actually punches the worm. That's right, he was able to punch the worm. He runs for it. He climbs out of the big hole. The big worm follows him, was able to grab him, and as if it's freaking Jumanji, and it's divine, was trying to pull him back in the freaking hole. Then all of a sudden, the freaking girls, which of course this doesn't make sense really, but on the other hand, we did see in early in the episode that Beth's parents are way over there the other side of the lake. So it's a lake that the lake divides Regina's home, aka Todd's home, from Beth's home. So that's the good news, where it's like, okay, it does make sense that they're actually walking, but why in the world are they walking like at the evening time? Which I guess maybe they could do it. I mean, technically it is in quotations Canada. I mean, yeah, America, the 90s, I guess it was a little bit safe, but it's not exactly as safe as it was considering Safe Place was created. Anyways, so let's see. It saw the bird in their hands and it got scared and it ran away. And the weirdest part is that the girls couldn't actually see him getting pulled. Instead, they just see him actually to the ground, I guess. Which is like, huh. They were actually close to range to see maybe a little thing right there, but I guess technically they couldn't really see it because it was down to the ground. It wasn't like up there as if an elephant raising its trunk. So that's kind of. So luckily, yeah, they were walking near the lake, and he's now throwing away all his worm stuff. He's like, frick this. I am not doing worms ever again. So now Todd actually is fixing the bird. He's repainting it. It's apparently movie night. So the next day, he's like, I'm now going to do fishing. Yes, different from the book. The book, he went to butterflies. This one, he's going fishing. He still has to do the science fair. No, the science fair did not happen in the episode yet. So that means that technically in the book, that science fair was done. In the episode, the science fair still is happening, which means he needs a new thing for his project. Now he's actually going to experiment on fish. So it turns out there's a fish or two watching him, and apparently they don't like what they're hearing, and they decide to actually. So they're fishing um they're fishing for fish. They're using minnows, not worms. He dumped all the worms into water. So here we go with the fact of the freaking fish now are a sentient too, and they're like, oh freak, we're not gonna get screwed over by this guy. He's like, okay, well let's put the freaking bag with a sandwich in it, and it turns out the sandwich actually has a fishing reel in it. So they bag themselves a Todd, and he's like, okay, fine, okay, because Todd was gonna do the same thing he's gonna do with worms. Hot water, cold water, etc. Fish can't feel pain. What the freaking hell, man? It's like, dude, he sounds like a somewhat serial killer, man. It's like, why don't he just attack the ants as well? Yeah, so the big fish, I guess, or the fish people or whatever, they kind of could actually have, so yeah, they basically struck him a deal where he's like, "Okay, I'm not gonna touch any fish. Okay, I promise." And it's kind of funny they made a joke of, "Wait a minute, what? You're not gonna send me back to land after swim back? Oh, what the frick?" And that's how the episode ends. So it's like, I think technically the episode topped what happened in the actual book. All right, there we go. There is your comparison between the book and episode review. I will do most likely one more video, maybe one more video that has like some stuff I should wrap up, because there is something interesting I should talk about. And then actually I think I do have two episodes. I do have two videos to do. So here we go. Let's do this. But the funniest part is like I'm not gonna actually do the book, because the book, I don't know. I guess maybe I could do the book as well. Anyways, have a scary day, have a scary night, and stay tuned for the next one coming soon. If we're lucky, maybe it actually will be the Squid Jib based one where I can talk about Bad Hair Day.